Today's class, we are going to see research ethics. See, the very word itself, it is very clear. The ethics, it is an very strong English word, which insists upon the discipline of a person. Initially, it is a discipline of a person, right? Always, what do you understand by the simple English word ethics? Leave of research ethics. Simply just tell me, what do you understand by the word ethics?
Ma'am, the morals,
Yes, then.
the human morals, where we work on.
Mm,
So
then.
maybe in research also there must be some
Mm.
morals.
The rules that we follow, ma'am.
Yeah, you can not only the rules, like when you say ethics, it comes under the discipline. Uh, See, we'll say no. There is a what we say. There is a difference between just doing the work for our welfare and doing the work for the welfare of others. And the ethics says that whenever you do some work, it should not harm others. That is a main thing. Here they comes under ethics. So in what way in research you can harm others?
No cheating, no manipulation of the data, ma'am, being transparent, true to the heart.
Exactly, yeah. And previously, when this ethics was developed, why this ethics? Generally the rules and regulations they start only when somebody try to overrule the boundaries or cross the boundaries. So previously, what has happened? Few of the things they were following or just copying what the senior people have done it without understanding the meaning of it. So to stop all these things, this research ethics has been insisted by the government, and it is WHO. Whenever it comes to human research and medical research, naturally everyone would be knowing WHO, the World Health Organization. This is very important. So regularly, all of you try to read the updates of World Health Organizations. So they have formed um, ethics for human research as well as for medical research. So they have formed the main, they have given the important guidelines is scientific research. As we have already told you that this yoga and the physiology and all the researches comes under scientific category only. So we should follow research ethics. How you are following research ethics? They are telling you how to do all these things. Protecting the study subject's dignity, rights, well-being, and also all these things require in the ethical contact. So whenever, as I have already explained with Sujata, when your subjects agree to be your part of your research, and it is our duty, the researcher duty, to maintain their dignity and as well as their right as well as their well-being. Can anyone say what they mean by here as dignity? Everybody would be understanding with the right word. What they mean by right and the well-being over here? What is the rights of any subjects? No, any you do a research, you select to 30 to 60 samples, and 130 you will be giving some research training, another 30 will be given as training, and the rest 30 or 50 will be your sample for observation. And here comes the question of right and the well-being. Can anyone say what is right over here? What they mean by right?
Not divulging the information, ma'am, is something like that. Their information should be kept confidential.
No, I'm that is that will come under. I don't think it comes under right, madam. Still more you can think.
They should be given all the information about the research.
Exactly, this is what I expected. See, they have right to question the treatment first of all, and we, as a doctor, also as therapist, it is our duty to give the complete information to the subjects. What you are going to do. Suddenly, you cannot. You have chosen some patient. You did some rest. You can take hypertension. You have tested their blood pressure, And okay, you take you are going and taking samples from a village, right? So you don't take this city or the town where they would be knowing what is BP and what is everything they would be knowing. Imagine that you are entered into one village which is not that much advanced with education, and you wanted a subject, so you would just examine them all the you assemble the population and you started checking the BP, and you identified with your questionnaire certain people as your subjects, okay? And you have started your treatment, and when the treatment is simply going on, subjects also coming, when suddenly some of their relatives who are a bit knowledge, they might be asking the subjects what is going on, what you are doing, what everything is. Then the subject would be in a blank position, that they have not already been informed what the researcher is doing with the subject. Okay, so here that is why whether the subject is illiterate or ignorant about what we are doing, it is our duty to make them sit before us, and you have to explain. It is a duty of the each and every researcher to explain what would be the treatment processes, what is the problem that has already been detected by us, and what we would be doing with our treatment process, and what would be the results. So, for example, you have to tell them how many days, hours of training that you are going to carry out, how many days it has been scheduled, and what are all the types of treatment, like if you are going to give them the asanas. So, we simply say loosening exercises, asanas, breathing, meditation, everything. But there are many people who doesn't understand the meaning of asanas. Simply, if you ask them to bend here and there, they will not be in a position to understand what we are doing with them, right? So, like this, there are many ignorant people. So, it is their right to know what we are giving the treatment to them. So, it is our duty. We have to make them understand before starting the treatment. And the second point is very much important, that is the well-being. Their well-being is very much important. That is what I told you. When you are treating a diabetic patient alone, you can give different types of asanas and different types of breathing. But if you are going to give a treatment to diabetic patient with hypertension, you should be very careful while you are giving the asanas as well as while you are giving the breathing style. See, you cannot give if a person is affected by diabetic alone, you can give the diabetic package, basic package that we have already designed. But the same, for example, can anyone say the particular asana that could be given to diabetic patient, but that should not be given to hypertension? Can any asanas are you getting? Or any practices? Mhm. Yeah.
Sarvangasana and Halasana, we can't give to the hypertension patient.
Yeah.
But we
And
can
then
give
what
diabetic.
about the breathing?
Sorry?
Breathing. Yeah, you should not give to hypertension people. So like this, you have to analyze already, because you should, their well-being is very much important. Simply, you cannot say my research is only related with diabetic. I don't know if he is having hypertension or if she is having hypertension. So I am not responsible for what has happened to the particular patient. You cannot be giving. See, if you keep on giving them, especially another thing is, if you make them retain the breath, the kumbhaka we should not give to hypertension. If you make them do more of kumbhaka, there will be a lot of fluctuation in the BP level. So like this, their well-being is very much important for us, right? And it is our duty, not only during our treatment time, even after the treatment, they should be healthy, they should be well-being here. All the things comes over, they should have an emotional well-being, they should be mentally, they should be good, and they should be physically good, and they should be emotionally good also. Social well-being is also counted over here. See, for example, you are giving naturally, 60 minutes or 40 minutes, you would be designing your yoga schedule. And yes, it is very, very much advisable to start the yoga in the morning, at least before 8, we have to finish it off, right? So you have to assemble all your subjects surely in a one place, and you have to start your treatment. So imagine one of your subjects is a student, or one of the subjects is employed, and they have to report to duty by 7:30. So every day, if you fail to leave them before 7, naturally their stress level will be very high. Do you understand or not? Because they have to proceed for their further work. So such a sort of ethical things and well-being we have to maintain. And especially as I have already told you, the diet point. See, if a person is a non-vegetarian from the beginning, from their birth, if the person is a non-vegetarian, yes, as per yoga, we advise only for sattvic diet, no doubt about it. And when a person comes to you for yoga, in the first class itself, can you ask him to follow sattvic diet? I need response. Are you all there with me?
No, ma'am.
So what will happen? The food is the one that they take for satisfaction also. If you make them, if you force them for sattvic diet, that itself will make them little allergic or little sickness, or what you say, they may not be interested to continue with yoga. Such a sort of mental dissatisfaction will arise. That is why they say the well-being is very much important. So they have brought all these things under ethical contacts. Okay, so whenever you take any subject, these ethical contact you have to follow. And when the next point they say, a human research should be approved by ethics committee to ensure ethical standards are met over here. See, anyone is joined a PhD, or anyone knows idea about ethical committee, or anyone have faced the ethical committee? I think you
Not
remember PG only, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So when you enter into an PhD, the first thing that they form is the ethical committee. Before the ethical committee, our guide will be there. Guide will be only the observer. Okay. So the person from our field will be there, and doctor will be there. Doctors are mandatory. For example, a general physician will be there, and for example, if it is in my ethical committee, where it is related to dysmenorrhea, gynecologist will be there, and one psychologist will also be there. Okay. So before them, we have to present our research first. What are all our plans? What are all the variables that is resided? And how we finalize the subjects. That is very important, that you have to prove it with the ethical committee. And what are all the variables that is a dependent variable that is considered, and what is the independent variable, how we are going to give it to the patients, everything we have to explain before the ethical committee. And the doctors, they will question us how we are going to give all these things to the person. See, for example, if your treatment age group is above 60 to 70, and in the training schedule, if you have put Sirsasana, do you think ethical committee will approve?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Similarly, because certain things will harm the people. See, when it comes to the large amount of population, those who are not consistent with the yoga practices, suddenly we cannot be giving all these things. So these things will be questioned by the ethical committee, and the variables, what are all the variables that you are going to take, that will also be verified by the ethical committee, that particular variable should not harm the patients. Like, for example, in your research, if you have taken all the hormonal variable, it is very tough to continue with the research also, and it would be disturbing the subjects also. So such as sort of things, they will not be allowing us. So like this, ethical committee have many standards which is prescribed by the WHO. So they will, before them, we have to present, and after they will, after the questions, if our answer is good and satisfactory, they will approve us to proceed with the research. That is why they say that their assessment emphasize on fairness, anatomy, and everything. These things, ethical committee will surely verify. Simply, and ethical committee presentation, our presentation will take almost 40 minutes, and their question session will take almost 1 hour. And WHO promotes ethical norms and suitable review process for human subjects research with the members of the state and the partners. See, it is not constituted by a single person. As WHO, they have promoted all these norms with a group of people around them. As we have already told, in hypothesis, we said cultural and the regional things to be respected. Similarly, even in ethical committee, those things will be considered according to the regional things. Few things will have to be observed, and that will also be verified by the ethical committee. And then they say that ethical committee, the research ethics review committee of WHO guarantees that only ethical research is being supported. That is why. See, if we have copied from someone, and nowadays it is not possible because we have too much of plagiarism softwares, and universities are not approving any of such research. So nowadays rules and regulations are very good. But previously, when these plagiarism softwares were not developed, those who have copied, though they were given the doctorate at that moment, and later on I know a few of the researchers which have been found that they have copied from someone which has been established by the original source also. They have been debarred from getting the doctorate also. Such a cases are very well available. Simply you cannot cheat someone and present a thing, and simply you cannot escape. There are many cases reported previously, and university has sealed their researches also. So that is why they say the original only ethical researchers are being supported. If your research is not following any ethical rules, for example, what would be if your patients are minors? What should be in the ethical committee? What should be the ethics that we have to follow first? Can anyone say? And first tell me, are you all allowed to do a research with minors? And if you say yes, what is the first thing we need to follow?
Parents' consent is needed.
Exactly, because when it is a minor, parents' consent is very much important. And similarly, even though your parents are giving the consent, the list of asanas that we are going to give them should be carefully planned, and we have to give them. Similarly, when it comes to aged geriatric men also, our things should be carefully planned, because too young and too old are very sensitive to handle. So we should give only a selected healthy practices to them. All the trials or any hard practices, very tough things, we cannot give to them. Generally, tough things, as it is already described, Stiram Sukham Ashanam only. It should be a comfortable thing only. We should not give any harmful things to the patients. And then they have mentioned that ERC follows the World Medical Association declaration. So these are all the things that are behind, So yoga comes under all these things only. Ethical, because we do our research with a human being, so we have to obey these rules only. And this has been amended as per the latest norms in 2013. And then International Ethical Guidance of Human Subjects Biomedical Research. So without ethical clearance, nobody can proceed with their research. So here there are few words of definitions. What do you mean by ethics? It involves nothing but moral principles, guiding principles of research conduct, emphasizing honesty, social responsibility, as well as integrity. So it is basically in our yogic terms, we can say yama niyama we have to follow. That is nothing but the ethics. And next thing is that why do we need all this research ethics? Can you share your views? Why do we need it? As I have already told you, there are lots of procedures for ethical committee, and ethical committee should approve our research. Without approval of ethical committee, we cannot proceed with the research also. When doing a research itself is a tough process, and clearing ethical is another challenging process only. Okay, when these things are there, why should we go for this sort of research ethics? Why it is being emphasized? What is your view? Can anyone share? You can share your views very freely. Why do we need this research ethics?
Like, ma'am, so that we can, build the trust and towards whoever I'm researching with, or to whoever I am going to present the research.
Mm.
So that this trust building concept should be there. Otherwise, they won't believe that if I hurt somebody while researching, and now and I'm getting the result out of it while hurting somebody, then it won't be good. I think that's the case.
Is only the trust. This research ethics deals only with the trust. What else?
It should not be harmful to the subject, so it should
Yeah,
be.
fine. Very nice. Then,
Ma'am, I feel we should keep the bigger picture in mind. Whatever we are doing right now, it is going to last for many, many years and generations. So, not for the sake of just seeking a PhD degree or something. You should have that social responsibility and do it true from the heart, ma'am. Take some long time. And like you said, yama niyama. For me, it is very important, ma'am. Yama niyama. I feel honesty, transparency.
fine.
The people should just trust us, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still more, can anyone come to the exact point? Why do we really need the research ethics? It is there in the meaning itself. We can just little think over it. Okay, anyway. See, what is the meaning of the research that we have seen in the first class? Why? The meaning of research is doubt in 7th class?
Known to unknown.
In one by one, please.
Research means again and again searching for the knowledge. Known to unknown. All this.
Yes, again and again we are searching for what?
The true knowledge.
Only knowledge? Just think over. You are into the point, but tell me what you are searching for. What you are searching in the research.
Solution for a problem.
Exactly. See, why we start a research? Because we identified some problem that is not having a solution, right? Or the solution that is not optimum, right? So because of only we have identified some problem for which there is no solution, or the solution doesn't have an optimal thing. That is why we are starting something. So we have to find out a perfect solution for the problem identified by us, right? So this is a very meaning of research. All the researchers should be started only with the problem identified by us. So you should have a proper principle in identifying the problem. You should be true in identifying the problem. Simply you cannot take that what is prevailing or what is easy to do. So many people I have observed, when they take a topic, they will not really identify the hardcore problem. Simply everyone they will be thinking about the subject. See, if I take diabetic 2, I can get more subjects. If I take hypertension, I agree, it is also the metabolic disorder is the greatest problem. But your intention should not be in collecting the number of patients. No, your intention should be in such a way that the the real problem should be identified and the proper solution should be searched. So that is why they say research. You have to search out the meaning, search out the solution for the real problem that is still unresolved. So that there itself the ethics started. So why do we need the ethics? Everyone who is entering into a PhD should have this basic thought. Simply for the, as Rajeshwari ma'am said, simply for the purpose of getting the doctorates, if you just enter into a university and if you're not doing the research, it won't be a real research, right? You will not have an interest. Research is the one that should be coming from your heart, and you should have an inborn interest into it. So really you should have the patience to do something, and you have to identify the problem, and you should have a first thing that your solution should support the society. So when you think about the society, the real problem to be identified, you have to search out the correct problem that is unresolved or that doesn't have a proper solution. And even if they have a solution, if you are able to, if you have identified some better solution into it, and you should be interested enough to present the solution that you identified. For example, I'm not against any sort of medicine. For discussion sake, I'm telling you, when you go for allopathic, when the people is diabetic too, when it crosses the level, what they do, really everyone would be knowing the why the diabetic comes. When the pancreas is there, it is secreting glucose as well as insulin. So when why the people is called as diabetic, when the percentage of glucose that is being secreted in the insulin doesn't match with the glucose level, the problem of metabolic disorder of diabetic 2 comes. What happens? This every cells, the body in our cells are really intelligent, and they will absorb the nutrients only when the particular cell is food is identified with. There is one demarcation everyone would be knowing, good sugar and the bad sugar. How the cells will identify a good sugar and a bad sugar? Good sugar is the one that is tagged with the insulin. Okay, so that will be observed by the cells. When particular sugar is not tagged with the insulin, the cells will not be observing it. So this is the main work that is going on in our cells. So what this allopathic, when they inject insulin, what is happening before food itself, before they take the food, they'll be injecting the insulin injection. So with all the sugar, I mean, whether it is good sugar or bad sugar, the insulin tag will be accompanied. So all the cells will start observing even the bad sugar. Okay, this is a problem with insulin. That is why when a diabetic 2 persons, when they start taking the insulin, their the good blood and the bad blood get into the heart, and they are entering into the heart problem. And naturally, with all the problems, all the organs getting the failure. This is a problem happening with allopathic medicine. But in yoga, when somebody has started this yoga research, just imagine it is boon to all diabetic patients. What we do, we insist on sattvic diet, and we just make them to do the asanas in such a way that their infected pancreas is getting restored to the normal condition. Is it not a boon to them? We don't give them any medicine. We don't give them any artificial insulin to them. Okay, we just ask them to control their diet. That is a restriction in the diet. What control we are giving? We are not telling them to follow any hard diet. That which is really good to their body. See, we used to ask them to take all sprouted things that has a soul in their life. And we used to ask them to take much of fibers. That is a sattvic diet promotes only that. And then we would be giving the forward bending asanas, Patimotasana, and Attamachindram, all the asanas we used to give. Because of doing the asanas, a diabetic patient, they will have a sort of a sprain-like thing in the joints, and the nerves will also be very little stiff. They couldn't place the leg very fast when they are having a long diabetic. All these things would be get resolved immediately when they practice a proper yoga and proper breathing. So we have to appreciate a person, and we all should thank a person who identified the solution through yoga for such an chronic problem, right? Am I correct? Or you all agree with me or not? Similarly, when you go for even hypertension, similarly you go for obesity. And obesity is a very big problem that was prevailing. No, there are some artificial powders and the drinks. Everyone is still available in the market, and there are many. I think massage studios or many things are there who are assured for reducing the weight and who apply some machineries on them and they reduce the weight like that, because of which they get a humpty number of problems in their afterlife. Okay. But with yoga, we could solve obesity. We could bring the BMI into the right track. Is it not? Do you all agree with me? So these things are the really a new way of identifying the solution for the existing problem. So previously the problem is really identified and someone has identified and someone has given the solution also. But with that solution, and we could give them a better solution. So in such a way that what I'm trying to say over here is that should be the real research. Whether you identify if you identify the existing problem, your solution should be new. Your research should be new. Your research should be more beneficial than what has already been identified. So that is what they say that the key values should be honesty, integrity, and social responsibility. So all the things that social responsibility comes to the really very important, that whenever we are finding any solution to the problem, social responsibility should be it should be in the main focus. So what are all the major principles of research ethics? So minimizing the harm, that is really important. Whatever the treatment that we are going to give, it should not harm the patient. It should not harm first ourselves. Okay, whatever the treatment that we are going to give, it should be beneficial and we should be master in it. But that is very much important, and we should not harm the patients, the participants, and the we should minimize the potential harm. Here they say what is the potential harm they mean here is that, see, when we say that a few diets we may be asking them to follow, but it should be a proper planned and a balanced diet. If you without planning the balanced diet, if you ask them to reduce or stop any food or anything that they have been practicing from their childhood, it has really harm their health in the future. That is why they say potential harmers, minimize the potential harm. And the second point they are telling us that obtaining informed consent. That is why we say you are not, as a previously we have discussed, simple oral consent is not enough. In ethical committee, that is why ethical committee insisted that written consent is very important. All the patient, how many or even if you have 300 patients in your research, you should get written consent from all the 300 patients. It should be listed properly. You should have a proper data that has to be presented whenever it is being demanded. In ethical committee, we are supposed to present all these things. So whenever you enter into a research, these things are very important. Why they have inserted all these things? These are one of the ways to find out whether our research is originally carried out or not. See, you cannot simply present this consent report, right? Because in the consent form, the patient details, patient complete profile will be there, and their address, the contact details, everything would be there. So anytime the university and the ethical people have the right to check whether we have really done the research in the particular area. They have all the rights to go for a field verification also. So we cannot just imagine and sitting in a one room, imagine all the names, all the profiles, and we cannot be giving over Googling. We cannot be doing all these things. And next thing is avoiding deceptive practices. That is, maintain the honesty and transparency in the research. Okay, that is very much important. So in the name of treatment, we cannot give anything that by way of deceiving them. For example, no, previously, without giving them the proper treatment, just in the name of the God, they were cheating that the problem would be resolved. Such a sort of deceptive practices should be avoided, and it should not be there. The ethical committee is very particular about it, and providing the right to withdraw. So where it comes, why do they withdraw from our treatment?
Maybe, ma'am, in between when they feel like it's hurting or something, then they will withdraw.
No, I don't understand, Sakshi.
I mean, when the participants, when they will feel that this is beyond what they have think of this research,
Hmm.
I mean, that time they can withdraw. They would want to withdraw. So we should,
Okay.
yeah.
So don't it mean that we have not explained them in advance? The situation that you say will happen only when the researcher fail to explain what they are actually going to do, right?
Yes, ma'am, maybe.
So that won't be there. That is only that will surely affect the researcher research. And just think, what are all the situations that the participants may withdraw?
Ma'am,
As we
Maybe a
see,
long
as
statement.
almost going to end. Join in now.
ma'am, there could be a change in my home situation, my home something, some I don't know, which will not allow me to continue to be a participant there.
So
I'm
there are
exactly not able to tell, ma'am, but
few cases where the physically the patients may have to shift from one location to another location, which is where the proximity is a question. That time the patient need to withdraw from the treatment. And another situations are coming when while ongoing the treatment for one problem. Suppose if a patient met with some accident, or if a patient is added with some responsibility that he couldn't attend our treatment in time, or if a patient is in such a situation, for example, when you give diet, if a patient is not in a position to follow the diet, if he's staying outside or if he's forced to stay outside when the home food is not available to him or her, when they are forced to take it outside, so the patient may say that, so it will not work out for me, so I am forced to withdraw with that, right? Such a situations will come. So as Sakshi said, if a person or if your patients are withdrawing from the treatment, since the treatment is very tough, it means that you have not explained them properly. It is our duty to make them understand, and our treatment should be modified and flexible. No, all the asanas, you cannot give all the asanas as in Hatha Pratipika, right? To everybody. So there are in young age, the flexibility will be more. When the age goes, the flexibility will go off. And even if you take, even if the people are in the same age group, you cannot expect a perfection in all the 30. For example, if you have 30 people doing the asanas, all the 30 may not be in a position to do Padahastasana or a Paschimottanasana in the style that is prescribed in Hatha Pratipika. So we have to modify the asanas according to their flexibility. That is very much important. So if you are unable to modify, if you are not giving any modification, if you are forcing them, naturally patients will withdraw from your treatment. So if the patients will withdraw, what would be the consequences for the researcher?
he has to start all over again, ma'am.
Yeah, because your treatment, your results will be affected. See, you are supposed to, when they say 60 members, your treatment should be for 60 members only. When it is reduced to 59, your pre-test you will be having 59, but when it comes to post, you won't have the 59. So these problems will come to us in future. Then it is very, again, you have to start the treatment, you have to recruit one more person, and you have to start your treatment from the beginning again. So that is why it is always advisable that you have to follow the ethical committee directions. And next is practices against research ethics. That is what is called as research misconduct. Research misconduct involve fabrication, falsification, plagiarism, or deceptive practices in research. So can anyone understand from these words what they are trying to say? Come on.
Fabrication means, yeah, go ahead, Sakshi, go ahead.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Like going against the ethics, ma'am, like whatever ethics is saying that do this, do this, do this, the researcher is doing exactly opposite of that. They are he is taking other people research. He is
That
doing
is what. Fabrication here they mean they'll be rephrasing. The other research they'll be taking it, they'll be rephrasing, and simple meaning of fabricating, decorate with the decorative words they are giving, And this is not a good practice. But one thing, when you turn it in, when 3 consecutive words are repeated from any research or any book, Turnitin will identify and give the similarities. Even ChatGPT, Turnitin is intelligent. They have designed a software in such a way that even ChatGPT chats are being identified as plagiarism. So nowadays, these things are softwares are clearly developed in such a way that very tough that you cannot tamper any of the things. No, so here that is why they have used this word. For example, fabrication, the tampering, copyright violation. So in research, in certain research, that when you are taking the reviews, I have already told you, you can take the reviews from many of the things. The author would have already stated the permission from them is very much essential. You cannot download the PDF. When you are trying to download a PDF, there the author permission is very much important. So what generally people do now, they won't ask the permission from the researcher. Simply they'll copy it and they'll be pasting it. But doing that sort of practice is not advisable, because when it comes to the presentation, it will be under plagiarism only, because the researcher has not permitted you to take the research. So sort of things. Yeah, Sakshi, please.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
like we can't copy his research or other person research, but for reference purpose, we can take something from other researchers,
That's
right?
what, with this permission only you have to take. When they have put, it has to be taken only with their permission. You have to follow it because it is their own research, right? We
Like
have no
without,
right.
and ma'am, what if we give credit that this research belongs to this reference? Giving reference
See, when
is
you
also.
put the reviews, if a researcher, they have not put their permission is required, you can take it. But if I have clearly mentioned, if a researcher, if you want to copy, use this research as a reference or a thing, you have to take the permission of research. Contact mail ID would be there in the box itself. In such a cases, you have to drop a mail explaining that you want to read the particular research, you want to show us as a reference. So immediately they will respond. Everybody will be happy. If you are referring my research, I'll also be happy. Naturally, that person, they will be responding you. But without, when they have instructed to get the permission, and if you are just taking it as a reference without their knowledge, that is tampering only. Okay. So it will be identified as a plagiarism in future. That is what I'm saying. Not every researcher would have mentioned. Some few researchers are very important, which are very beautifully made. They might have put it, right? So in such a cases, if you just see that words, have the habit of just sending the mail to the researcher ID. Immediately you will be getting the reply from them. They are very fast in replying. Generally, I have a while I was taking the reviews, 10 researcher I met like that. When I dropped a mail, they have sent me the entire research, complete research. I mean, not the full chapters. That particular publication they have given to me with their uh, beautiful gesture. So that is why I'm trying. That is what I'm trying to say. When they have mentioned, just follow that. Okay, and it is already time up, and still few more points are there. So I think we may continue with the next class because it is already 9:30.